In 2020, the largest small engine manufacturer in the United States filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, carrying over $900 million in debt. Briggs Stratton had been building engines in Milwaukee since 1908. They once employed 11,000 workers and generated $2.5 billion in annual revenue. They powered more lawnmowers than any company on the planet. Days before the filing, executives awarded themselves $5 million in retention bonuses while terminating retiree health insurance for the factory workers who had built that company with their hands. A New York private equity firm bought the entire operation for $550 million in 63 days. We are going to expose exactly what changed inside these engines, why nothing with a pull cord works anymore, and the 3 types of machines you should actually buy with your money. If you walked into a Home Depot this weekend, you would see what looks like 20 competing lawnmower brands on the floor. Cub Cadet, Troy-Bilt, Husqvarna, Ryobi, Craftsman, Toro. You assume these are different companies fighting to build a better product. That is an illusion. 4 parent corporations now control virtually every brand on those shelves. Stanley Black and Decker spent $1.9 billion in 2021 to acquire MTD Holdings and Excel Industries, giving them Cub Cadet, Troy-Bilt, Hustler, and the Craftsman outdoor line. Husqvarna Group, a Swedish conglomerate, controls Husqvarna, Poulan, and Weed Eater. Insiders at a competing company reportedly called their chainsaw lineup rainbow saws because they were all assembled in the same plant with the same components and then painted different colors to sell at different price points under different names. You think you are choosing between competing products. You are choosing between paint jobs. Tektronic Industries, headquartered in Hong Kong, owns Ryobi, Milwaukee, and the Walmart exclusive Hart brand. And the Toro company now controls Toro, Exmark, and Lawn Boy. What you are looking at is not a competitive marketplace. It is a handful of corporations painting different logos on machines engineered to hit the lowest possible price points demanded by the same big box retailers. And the engine that powered more of those machines than any other was Briggs & Stratton. But to understand what went wrong, you need to understand what they built, and then what they destroyed. In 1953, Briggs & Stratton introduced aluminum die-cast engines timed perfectly for the suburban mower boom. Suddenly, every new homeowner with a quarter-acre lot needed a rotary mower, and Briggs was there to power it. By 1957, those engines accounted for 80% of company orders. By the early 80s, Briggs was ranked on the Fortune 500 as the largest producer of air-cooled, gasoline engines on Earth. The design they built was called a flathead or L-head engine, with the valves beside the piston rather than above it. Mechanics called these engines bulletproof, and that was not nostalgia, it was engineering. Cast iron cylinder sleeves handled thousands of hours of thermal stress that would destroy a bare aluminum bore. The splash lubrication was crude but adequate. A homeowner could rebuild the adjustable carburetor with a $5 kit in 30 minutes. One commercial operator logged 2,200 hours on a single quantum flathead without a major repair. These engines routinely lasted 1,500 to 2,000 hours, and a competent mechanic could tear one down and reassemble it in 45 minutes with hand tools. Starting in the late 90s, the company began replacing flatheads with a new overhead valve design called the Intek. They said EPA emission regulations forced the change, and there was truth to that. But the Intek was not just a valve train redesign. It was a material downgrade at every critical point inside the engine. Cast iron sleeves became bare aluminum bores that wear faster under thermal cycling. Forged camshafts became sintered metal paired with plastic compression release components that fatigue and snap. Robust Walbro carburetors became ethanol-vulnerable Nicky units with O-rings that dissolve from chemical attack. By 2016, Briggs introduced engines with no oil drain, plug at all, marketed as a convenience feature. Mechanics understood it for what it was, planned obsolescence with a label on it. The failures became an epidemic. The plastic compression release pin on Intek camshaft snaps under repeated stress, often destroying the governor gear and oil slinger in a chain reaction. A 7-page thread on my tractor forum documents scores of identical failures. One owner reported the replacement part failing again in 25 hours. Counterweight connectors have reportedly broken at as few as 140 hours, and the EPA's own compliance categories tell the story in official numbers. Most consumer Briggs engines are certified Category B or C, meaning the manufacturer tells the government the engine is designed to last between 125 and 500 hours. A Honda GX commercial engine is Category A and routinely delivers 2,000 to 5,000 hours. Your father's mower lasted decades. A new consumer engine might not last a decade, but failing engines are only half the problem. While manufacturers were replacing iron with aluminum and steel with plastic, two outside forces were simultaneously attacking these engines from the fuel tank and the regulation book. In 2005, Congress created the Renewable Fuel Standard, mandating ethanol in the gasoline supply. The 2007 expansion pushed targets to 36 billion gallons by 2022. Today, approximately 95% of retail gasoline contains 10% ethanol. Automobile engines handle ethanol because they have fuel injection systems and electronic engine management that adjust the mixture in real time. Small engines have none of that. They have a single carburetor with fixed jets and no computer. Briggs Stratton's own vice president of research and development stated publicly that ethanol causes corrosion of metal parts, degradation of rubber components, and reduced engine life. And the president of the Outdoor Power Equipment Institute, the trade group representing the entire industry, it called ethanol damage permanent and irreversible. Ethanol is hygroscopic, meaning it absorbs moisture from the air. When water content exceeds roughly 0.5%, the ethanol and water separate from the gasoline and sink to the bottom of the tank. This phase separation can begin in 30 days. The corrosive mixture gets drawn directly into the carburetor, attacking aluminum castings and creating white oxidation that clogs jets. It dissolves rubber seals, diaphragms, and float needle tips. And it accelerates varnish formation that can plug fuel passages within weeks of sitting idle. Your mower's fuel is literally eating the engine from the inside during every off-season. And because these engines sit unused for months between mowing seasons, they are exposed to the worst possible conditions for ethanol damage. And here is what makes it a death spiral. At the same time Congress was mandating corrosive fuel, the EPA was sealing the carburetors shut. Phase 3 emission standards, signed October 8, 2008, and effective by 2012, required tamper-proof carburetor settings on all new small engines. Briggs Stratton's own documentation now states that their carburetors are factory set and not adjustable. If the limit cap breaks, the entire unit must be replaced for $100 to $300. The old adjustable carburetor let homeowners compensate for altitude, temperature, fuel quality, and engine wear with a simple screwdriver turn. The sealed unit eliminates all of that. When ethanol corrodes it, there is no rebuild. There is only replacement. And the replacement carburetor will fail in exactly the same way. To meet emission standards, these sealed carburetors are calibrated lean from the factory. That means less fuel relative to air, which reduces hydrocarbon emissions but runs the engine hotter. Unlike your car, a lawnmower has no knock sensor to detect dangerous combustion and pull back the timing. It just runs hot at 3,600 RPM until something gives. Lean calibration on top of ethanol that further leans the mixture on top of a sealed carburetor that prevents correction is the engineering equivalent of 3 poisons in 1 glass, and it gets worse. The EPA approved E15, containing 15% ethanol, for automobiles, but explicitly prohibits it in small engines. Yet E15 is sold at the same pumps, priced lower due to subsidies, and differentiated only by a small sticker. Department of Energy testing found it caused engine failure in outdoor power equipment. If you accidentally use it, your warranty is void. Meanwhile, California banned all new gas-powered small engines entirely under Assembly Bill 1346, effective January 1st, 2024, with New York, Michigan, and Illinois considering similar laws. So 3 forces converged simultaneously. Corporations cheapened the engines, the government sealed the carburetors, and Congress filled the fuel supply with a solvent that destroys the engines the regulations made unrepairable. So if the system is rigged against you, what do you actually buy? There are 3 paths, and each one requires stepping outside the big box store system. First, find a vintage American engine built before the cost-cutting era. A pre-2000 Briggs Flatheads on old Snappers or Toros were designed to be rebuilt, not replaced. A growing community of enthusiasts on forums like My Tractor Forum and Smokestack actively restores 40 and 50-year-old mowers because they outperform anything on a showroom floor. Tecumseh, whose Snow King engines powered more snowblowers than all other brands combined, ceased manufacturing in December 2008. Robin Subaru small engines, considered by mechanics to be every bit the equal of a Honda, exited in 2017. These engines are not coming back, but the ones sitting in garages across America will outlast anything manufactured today if you run ethanol-free fuel and change the oil. Second, skip the consumer market and buy commercial grade. Honda GX engines deliver 2,000 to 5,000 hours with cast iron sleeves and forged internals. A GX 200 costs $500 to $600 versus $300 for a comparable consumer engine. That premium buys 3 to 10 times the lifespan, making it dramatically cheaper per hour of operation. Honda exited the walk-behind mower market in 2022, but GX engines remain in production for other equipment. Kawasaki FX engines on Commercial Zero, turns from Skag and Exmark are equally durable. The rule is simple. If the spec sheet lists cast iron sleeves and a serviceable carburetor, you are looking at a real engine. Third, consider battery electric with open eyes. The segment holds 30% of the residential market and is growing at 13% annually. For a suburban lot, modern battery mowers genuinely work and avoid the ethanol problem entirely. But independent testing has shown significant capacity loss in lithium batteries within a few years of regular use, with replacements running around $400. Professional landscaper adoption remains minimal because runtime and recharge times cannot match an 8-hour commercial workday. Battery is a real option for homeowners. It is not yet ready for professionals. And know this final detail. The same brand name means different things at different stores. John Deere reserves its X300 series for dealer-only distribution with a 4-year warranty and typically a Kawasaki engine. The 100 series at Home Depot gets a 2-year warranty, thinner steel, and often a consumer Briggs engine. Same green paint on the hood. Fundamentally different machines underneath. One dealer found that Echo trimmers at professional shops were American-made, while the identical model at a big box retailer was manufactured overseas at the same price. The American lawnmower did not die of natural causes. Corporate consolidation replaced engineering with cost-cutting. The EPA sealed the carburetors shut, and Congress filled the fuel with ethanol that dissolves what the regulations made unrepairable. Your father's mower lasted because it had iron sleeves, a carburetor he could fix, and fuel that was not attacking it from the inside. Your mower dies because all 3 of those things were taken away over the same 2 decades. Do not hand your money to corporations selling disposable machines dressed up as durable equipment. Check the engine specifications. Use ethanol-free fuel every time you fill the tank. Buy from a dealer when you can, and never underestimate a commercial-grade engine from the 1990s that is still running strong, while the brand-new machine parked right next to it in the garage is already headed for the landfill. If this investigation opened your eyes, hit subscribe so you do not miss our next deep dive into the products being quietly engineered to fail. And if you have a vintage Briggs Flathead or an old Tecumseh still running in your garage, tell us in the comments how many years it has been going. We want to see those numbers.